Florida State lands a cornerback out of the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Florida State has a few visits lined up that are really important, but we lead off with an actual commitment. Florida State has landed Jeremiah Wilson, a player that is very familiar with the state of Florida. He is from Osceola High School. I remember seeing him in practice. I remember seeing him at games for Osceola. This is a kid that originally started out at Syracuse, went to Houston, and has played very well. Let's go over the measurables and what Jeremiah Wilson brings to the table. 5'10", 185 pounds. This is a young man that is coming off a season with 26 tackles, 9 stops, meaning plays that he really made a big play. Only 17 of the 38 passes thrown Jeremiah Wilson's way were completed, 44.7%. His grades per Pro Football Focus are impressive. I think the world of Houston staff, and defensively, 86.7% overall. That is elite. Run defense. Now, this is a corner, 77. That is very close to elite. Tackling, 79.3. In coverage, no question, elite. 86.9. That's impressive. He had a few times where he got beat over the top. He's an aggressive corner, typical Florida kid. But I'll take that if your overall coverage grade is 86.9. He makes plays. He had some picks last year, and he also is a guy that is just physical. Again, I saw him play in high school. He was always that guy. He just wasn't the biggest player, and that was the knock on him. Well, he's proven that it doesn't matter. So first off, hats off to Jeremiah Wilson for climbing the ladder and getting back to his home state. This is pretty cool. This is one of the few times that I really, really like the transfer portal. Guy earned his spot, man. Went to Syracuse, went to Houston. Now he is headed over to Florida State. Florida State is also going to be getting a player that is durable. 557 snaps this past season. If you think about college football, and especially looking at Florida State the last 2 years, the teams that win are the teams that trot out their best players. Florida State has had the injury bug the last few years. Hopefully Jeremiah Wilson, among others, will stay healthy. But again, getting a proven player like this is important. When we're going into spring, I thought that corner and safety would be strengths, but they changed the defense. You recruit differently for Tony White's system. They're going to run some zone. They're going to run different type of zone. They're going to have 3 safeties on the field, a lot of different types of situations. So maybe Jeremiah will fit that. I don't know. I don't really remember him playing last year for Houston. I'll have to go back and look at some film. But this is really cool to see a kid coming back to the state of Florida. So good for him. A couple other notes. Just want to remind you, Josh Raymond will be visiting Florida State next week, key offensive lineman from Vanderbilt. Got a heads up on that a few days ago. They also have another great story, honestly. Caleb Brown. This is a cornerback that's long and lean too, 6'1", 170 pounds. Played at Hawaii last. Community college guy. This is a great story. A guy that's earned it. Again, 2024, 492 snaps. Defensive grade, 77.1. Run defense, 83. Tackling, 79.3. And coverage, 74.8. He played 453 of his snaps out wide. He did play a little bit in the slot at 16 reps. And then finally, Tony Johnson will be another guy that's visiting. This is a receiver that was consistently productive at Cincinnati. 48 catches, 449 yards, and 6 scores. He had 2 contested catches. He had an offensive grade of 65.7, receiving 66.7, and he has great hands, 81.8 on the hands category. 48 of his 68 targets were completions, 70.6. 8 of 13 third down catches went for first downs for Tony Johnson. So Florida State knocks it out of the park with that. That's the good news. They've got a couple of visits in for this weekend. They get a commitment. Now here's my question. Are they going to get any other linemen in this weekend? Is there anybody else that's a surprise? There's always something new with the transfer portal. I learned this the hard way. And for those of you who don't know, or the first time listening to Locked On Seminoles, I also run Locked On the Portal. It covers transfer portal, NIL, and recruiting. I do at least one, if not two shows a day just on the portal right now. So check that out too. And I'm shocked all the time. There will be somebody on either Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday that ends up at Florida State for a visit that I don't know anything about. That would be my guess, because they're still trying to get guys, and that's just kind of par for the course. The portal closes today for getting your name in, but keep in mind, very, very important, you can sign later. Like if a kid signs in June, that's fine. There are kids from the December window that haven't found a home yet or are still debating and could sign with schools. Could sign with Florida State, technically. It is really loose. Like that's the one reason recruiting's easier. We know when signing day is. With the portal, every kid's signing day is different. It is very hard to track. I just wanted to give a quick update on this in terms of the players, but I also wanted to give an overall thought on the portal right now with Florida State. Here's what I've got right now that Wilson is in the fold. This is a unique group because defensively they've done a really good job. They've done a really good job. Do I want more on offense? Yes, we'll go into that. But let's start on the defensive side. Since Wilson is the commitment today, you get the corner out of Houston. You got two linebackers, Caleb Lavalley and Elijah Herring, that I think will be good players, but it's Stephon. In the middle from Nebraska, Stephon Johnson's going to be key. Calling plays, helping the younger guys understand the system. Again, new defense. That's important. So you get three linebackers. Just at defensive end, you're getting four guys. Now, defensive end is a very loose term in Tony White's defense. There's the stand-up outside linebacker. There's the weak side DN / strong side that put their hand in the dirt, and they're going to play 4-3 and 3-4, but guys that aren't interior D linemen. Let's just go with that. James Williams comes over from Nebraska. He's expected to be a stalwart. I don't know if he'll play both sides. Probably can. Deontay McCray comes over from Western Kentucky. Kid that's from Jacksonville. So he's an I-10 corridor kid. Comes home to the state of Florida. Very productive football player. I don't know if he'll play weak side or strong side, but he'll have his hand in the dirt. Diamante Diggs played at Coastal Carolina. Another big-bodied kid. He'll probably play strong side. And Jason Jenkins, kid out of originally the state of New Jersey, played at Tennessee. He has moved over to play to Florida State, 6'6", 280, so he's going to be more of a power player on the edge. Defensive end is in a really good spot. Offensively, Thomas Castellanos, I don't think he needs any quote-unquote introduction. He is with Florida State. That is your key to this season. There's no reason to really go down that road. Wide receiver, Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White have been added. I expect at least one more, if not two more receivers to be added, by the way. Gunnar Hansen, Adrian Medley, Micah Pettis, and Luke Pettibone. Hansen is expected to be left tackle. Medley will be one of the two guard spots. Pettis right tackle. And Pettibone was really good this spring as the starter at center. Might be their best lineman. This is a good group. But is it ready to be dominant without any chance of injury? No. They need more guys. And again, at least one, if not two, offensive linemen still need to come in. Florida State doesn't have the depth they need, especially after Jalen Early left. Again, just as a reminder, Josh Raymond, Vanderbilt, will be visiting next week, barring something unforeseen. That is the tentative schedule. They also have a couple of interesting players at tight end. Remember Biscuit? Marcuston Douglas transferred to Arizona State. He came back to Florida State, big body guy. And then they got a totally different kind of tight end, Randy Pittman, H-back / big body. Well, he could probably play fullback or running back. 6'1", 230, 235, powerful player, but he just has really good hands and has a knack for finding the dead space in the zone. He will be an effective player in Gus Malzahn's offense. He played for him at UCF, so it shouldn't be a very difficult transition. Same thing for Adrian Medley, played guard under Herb Hand at UCF before transferring to the Florida State Seminoles. So with that, I just wanted to give a quick overview of what's going on before we hit the weekend. I'll probably do a longer update this weekend. I'm waiting for the full portal to be done before I go full throttle. Look for something on Saturday or Sunday morning. I'm not sure which it will be, but there'll be another Locked On Seminole show. But the portal Need to get all the tallies in. So who left? Going to do an overview with the ACC in mind with this podcast and kind of figure it out. But Miami, Florida State, probably throw Florida in there too. Like who's going and who's leaving from these schools. Those are competition. Clemson, definitely talk about them. Might even talk a little about Georgia because all these teams recruit against each other. And I might even talk a little Auburn, Alabama, because those are the schools that dominate Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, the base for where Florida State gets its roster. So that'll be sometime this weekend. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. We will see you again soon. Thank you very much.